Hey up everyone, welcome back to the Rugby League History channel. Today on the channel I'll be doing my tips and predictions for round 15 of the 2024 NRL season. State of Origin game 1 is done and dusted, so with this week things can finally get back to normal for a couple of weeks before game 2 starts. So let's start off with the first match, which is kicking off on Thursday night. And that match is Cronulla-Sutherland against Redcliffe. This one's being played at Shark Park. Cronulla are currently equal first with Melbourne, with Redcliffe they're in 4th place at the moment. These two sides only have one previous meeting, it was last year, and I believe Redcliffe won the game by about 20 or 30 points. It was also the game where Valence Tavares scored 2 tries, and the experts and the commentators were creaming over him, going, oh, he's going to be this big player, he's going to be a superstar. And I'm thinking, yeah, one of the tries he scored, he ran at the smallest player on pitch in Matt Moylan, something that's not really hard to do when you're the size of Valence Tavares. Let's see how he goes when he runs at someone his own size. Anyways, he's kind of vanished into thin air recently, hasn't played a game this year. But anyway, getting back on track with Cronulla. Last week they defeated Brisbane up at Suncorp Stadium. They're a funny old team, Cronulla. They beat Eastern Suburbs and Melbourne, and then lost to Parramatta and Penrith, and then they beat Brisbane. As for Redcliffe, they come into this game off the bye. I think this is going to be a really good game to kick off round 15. I'm leaning more towards Cronulla, and that's who I'm going to go for. I think it's going to be a really tight match, but I'll go for Cronulla to win by 112 points on the Thursday. And the first match on the Friday is Canberra against North Queensland, the battle of the Garrison cities. This one's being played at Bruce Stadium in Canberra. Canberra are currently 5th on the table at the moment, North Queensland 12th. North Queensland and Canberra, their head-to-head between each other since 1995 is quite close. There's been 48 matches played, 25 wins to Canberra, 23 to North Queensland. Canberra coming into this match off the bye with North Queensland. They had a very disappointing loss against New Zealand up in Townsville. Some of the defence were quite bad, especially that try that Aaron Fanua-Blake scored. Both of these teams have injury concerns. For North Queensland, Jake Granville's one of the latest casualties. He's going to be out for quite some time. North Queensland will be desperate for a win, because if they don't win this match, they've got a tough month of rugby coming up. They've got to play Penrith, Manly, Canterbury Bankstown and Cronulla. However, their last 3 matches out of them 4 are all at home. I think this match will be another close game like the Cronulla and Redcliffe one, but I will go for Canberra to win by 1 to 12 points on the Friday. And the main match on the Friday is between South Sydney and Brisbane. This one's being played at Stadium Australia. Brisbane are currently sat 7th in the league, and South Sydney are in 16th place. Brisbane have a good record over South Sydney historically. They've played 49 matches against each other. Brisbane's won 33, South Sydney's won 15, and there's been 1 draw. For this match, Reece Walsh is still out, and this will be the first match that Brisbane have played at Stadium Australia since the infamous grand final from last year. Last time out, Brisbane had the aforementioned loss against Cronulla. They were quite disappointing in that one. And South Sydney had a big win over the Gold Coast. I thought it was going to be a high-scoring game, but I expected South Sydney to concede a few more points, but their defence was actually quite good and their attack were red hot. South Sydney still have a ton of players out for this match. In the last 2 games, they've scored, I think, well over 80 points. However, it were against Parramatta and the Gold Coast. It'll be interesting to see how they go against a quality team in Brisbane. For this match, I will go for Brisbane to win. I think South Sydney will give them a game, but I'm going to go for the away side. I think Brisbane's a different prospect to Parramatta and the Gold Coast, and I think South Sydney will find it tough. So I'll go Brisbane to win 112. And the first match on Super Saturday is between West Tigers and Gold Coast. This one's being played at Leichhardt Oval. Wests are currently rock bottom, and the Gold Coast are in 15th place in the league. The head-to-head between these two sides, I think the Gold Coast have their best record against the West Tigers out of all the other 16 NRL clubs. They've played 26 times against them, they've won 17 and they've had 9 losses. And at the venue at Leichhardt, they've played 6 times, they've won 4 of those, lost 1 and drawn 1. Last time out, both of these two teams got battered. Gold Coast got battered by South Sydney, as I just mentioned. As for West Tigers, they got battered by St George. It was a close game at half time, and second half, I don't know what happened. St George just piled on the points. James Graham said it was the worst second half collapse he's ever seen. Obviously he didn't watch the Parramatta against Redcliffe game. I mean, 8 tries in 25 minutes. What the fuck's going on there, like? West Tigers have currently lost 9 games in a row, and if they don't beat the Gold Coast on Saturday, well, I don't know where the next win's going to come from, because they have to play Canberra, Eastern Suburbs, Melbourne and Cronulla after this. And unfortunately, Parramatta's not coming up for a few weeks, so they can't rely on us to get their next win. It's also been a bad week behind the scenes for the club, with Lachlan Galvin asking for a transfer request. Also, Stefano Itakamanu is another one that looks like he's unsettled. And Jaden Sullivan's also being shopped around the clubs currently. However, they do welcome back Aidan Caesar for this match, so he'll be playing against his former side in the Gold Coast. I think this match will be very high scoring, but I'm going to go for Gold Coast, the away side. Reason being is that even though both teams can't really defend that well, the Gold Coast can really pile on the points. They've got a lot of attacking options. We're seeing that in some of the games this year, and I think Daz Haslip will have them ready for this game. And I think just overall this year, even though the Gold Coast have lost a lot of matches, they've looked more competitive than West Tigers. So I'll go Gold Coast to win by 1-12. The second match on Super Saturday is between New Zealand and Melbourne. This one's being played at Mount Smart Stadium in Auckland. Last time out, New Zealand had an impressive victory over North Queensland away there in Townsville, and Melbourne had a very high scoring win over Newcastle. When it comes to Melbourne against New Zealand, it's one of the most one-sided fixtures in the NRL. Melbourne's won their last 15 matches in a row against New Zealand. The last time that New Zealand won against Melbourne were in 2015. Melbourne's record at Mount Smart Stadium in Auckland is quite good. They played there 24 times and won 13 of those. For this match, I know that normally I'm quite conservative with my tipping, but I'm going to go on a limb here and I'm going to tip New Zealand to win. I think that this could finally be the time that they break this drought against Melbourne. They've got most of their players back now. They had a good win last week. I think they can back it up this Saturday, so I'm going to go for New Zealand to win by 1-12 points. And the final match on Super Saturday is between Parramatta and the Sydney Roosters. This one's being played at the Western Sydney Stadium. Sydney Roosters currently 6th in the league. As for Parramatta, they're 14th, but by the time that this game is played, depending on the result which happens between West Tigers and Gold Coast, Parramatta could be second last on the table. The head-to-head between these two sides is there's been 139 matches played overall. East have won 70, Parramatta's won 64, and there's been 5 draws. However, in recent times, East have dominated this fixture. Parramatta's only beaten them 3 times since 2015. For this match, Jared Waerea-Hargreaves and Watson will be back for Eastern Suburbs. As for Parramatta, the only injury concern really was the Micah Sivo injury, and Trent Barrett said that he's potentially touch and go whether he'll be playing on Saturday. East coming to this match off the bye. As for Parramatta, well, they really bottled that game against Canterbury, up 18 points to 10. Canterbury had a man in the sin bin, 9-4 penalty count. They also had 2 men off injured. And it was very similar to the West Tigers game earlier in the year. When that man was off the field, Parramatta didn't score a single point, and they were punished for that. It were really disappointing, because in that first half Parramatta looked quite good, but in that second half, especially the last 20 minutes, They played like a bottom 4 team, and once again it were just key mistakes at the wrong time, especially Bryce Cartwright. He were guilty twice. 2 of his errors led to 2 Canterbury tries. So for myself personally, that were 2 points dropped because Parramatta really should have gone on with it. And I think if Canterbury were playing against the likes of Penrith, Melbourne, someone like that, they wouldn't have won that game. But obviously the game management and just how Parramatta played in that second half towards the end, it weren't good enough. And I know it's not really his fault, but with Micah Sybil being out, Dejan Assi was just shot into the centre position. It's a position that he's never really played at. He's more of a 5'8", and he was badly exposed in that position by Stephen Crichton. And I think hopefully Trent Barrett doesn't pick him there again this week against East, because I think it'll just be more of the same. But just for this match, I just think because of East's record over Parramatta in recent times and how Parramatta's been playing, I have to tip East, especially when they're coming off the bye. They'll be a lot fresher. It's a short turnaround for Parramatta, so I'll go for Eastern Suburbs to win by 1 of 12 points. And the first match on Sunday, it's going to be an intriguing clash between Manly Warringah and St George. This one's being played at Brookvale Oval. Manly are currently 11th on the table and St George are 9th on the table. Who would have thought that at the start of the year? These two sides played earlier in the year and St George defeated Manly 20 points to 12. Overall, in the head-to-head, there's been 139 matches played. Manly's won 55, St George have won 78, and there's been 6 draws. However, St George's worst ever loss was at Brookvale Oval. Back, I believe, in the mid-1990s, Manly defeated St George 61 points to 0. With injury concerns, I read that Hamoli Olukwatu won't be playing in this game, so that's a massive blow for Manly. Last time out, St George battered West Tigers, as I documented earlier. As for Manly, they had a hard-fought loss against Penrith. I mean, Ruben Garrick, he had a Clint Gutherson moment with the goal kicking. I think he missed 4 or 5 conversions in that game, so really the full-time score could have been like 32 points to 30. But Manly did give a good account of themselves in that game, and they did put in a good effort against Penrith, but they just fell short. For this match, it's a tough one to call, but I will go for the home side in Manly. As we've seen this year, St George can put in these really good performances and they can also have some really bad ones. And if they're not on their game at Brookvale Oval, well, I mean, Tommy Talawi scored 4 tries last week. He'll probably score a couple more this week. But yeah, I'm going to go for Manly to win. I'm going to go for them to win by 1 of 12 points on the Sunday. And the final match to close out round 15 is between Newcastle and Penrith. This one's being played at Marathon Stadium in Newcastle. Penrith are currently sat 3rd in the league and Newcastle in 13th. Penrith have a great record against Newcastle in recent times. Newcastle have not beaten Penrith since 2018. Last week, Newcastle lost in a high-scoring game against Melbourne. It didn't go the way that I thought it would. I thought that Newcastle would get absolutely battered, but they kind of hung in there. As for Penrith, well, the Penrith machine just keeps rolling forward, doesn't it? Doesn't matter what's going on, who's out. They just seem to keep picking up the wins, and they won against Manly. And for that reason, I'm going to tip Penrith. There's no reason why I shouldn't tip against them, because just as I said, it just doesn't seem to matter what's going on, who's in, who's out. It's like a one-man up mentality at the club. They just keep turning up, they keep churning out the wins. So I'll go for Penrith to win by 1 to 12. However, I think Newcastle will give them a game, because we've seen that in some of the losses that Newcastle have had against Penrith in the past. They have been close. There was that match last year that was quite close, so I think it'll be more of the same in this game. So those are my tips for round 15. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, let me know in the comment section below and let me know who you're tipping. Thanks to everyone that's recently subscribed to the channel and has continued to support Rugby League history. And thanks once again for making my tipping video one of the most watched videos on YouTube in regards to tipping. Even though the views were slightly down due to the state of origin, there were still quite a few people that tuned in. So anyways, this has been Rugby League History, and I'll catch us all later in the next one. Alright, tatty bye for now.